So I'm just gonna focus on the, so when it comes to OKRs, there's a lot of what do you call aspects to it. I mean, it's a nice little, three-letter acronym, but there is there's like a whole, planning aspect. There's a big execution aspect, and there are a lot more basic things as well. Like, you need to write your OKR as well. You need to have an objective, which is a wish, uh, you know, pretty, wishful statement, which could kind of like, be applicable for longer terms of time frames, like a year to 2 years to even 3 years sometimes. And the key results could be what you accomplish over either a quarter or maybe some shorter time frame, maybe a half a year, and then you kind of like finish those key results, and then add on more key results so that your objective becomes reachable, over that year to 2 years to 3 year time frame. Now, with that, there's a lot of things, like there's a lot of cultural aspects to this. There's a lot of process aspects to this. Um, but what I've found interesting, for a newbie or somebody who's starting off is, um, OKRs provides a lot of structure to something that we've already been either doing or supposed to be doing, right? Many times when we try to engage with clients, we look at it and they are probably doing something similar, not necessarily in the exact form and structure, but something in spreadsheets and in other ways. They're struggling to keep things together, and so I thought that it'll be a good idea to just talk about just the planning and just the replanning process, right? Like towards the beginning of the quarter and then the end of the quarter, and what makes sense, right? From that aspect. Um, Now, what business are we in? We are in the business of moving mountains. I'm sure everybody agrees. So it's hard, with new technologies and um, environmental changes, geopolitical challenges, and things like that that are getting thrown at us. It's not simply you come to work in the morning at 9 a.m. and then leave at 5 6. Especially people who are here, I'm guessing are in the either already there or in the path to senior leadership. And for you, life is not easy. It's moving mountains. So we are absolutely in that business. Um, Now, what does that essentially mean? What it means is we have set some numbers to ourselves. Okay, either you have a revenue target of $10 million, or you have a cycle time reduction challenge, from like 10 days to 5 days to do something, either to manufacture something or research, R&D, for reducing some parameter in your product or whatever from X to Y. So you're working on some numbers. It's very easy to agree on that. If you don't even have any numbers to track and measure, then obviously we are in the wrong place. So, that's at a high level, we all can easily agree. Some numbers are harder to measure, but you know, but in the end of the day, when we say it's harder to measure, it could be that you don't know the numbers, the value of the number, or track the number continuously. You'll have to kind of like wait until the end of the quarter to get some of those numbers. But essentially, we are trying to move those numbers. Now, how do we do that? um, when we try to move numbers, like for example, let's take a sales example, which is easier. You want to take your revenue from 5 million to 10 million. You take a bunch of actions, right? Now, I mean, those actions could be as simple as hire a new VP of sales for a new territory. Enter into a new territory. Like for example, I'm running business right now in South Africa, or let's say in Dubai, as Angela isn't, and then or in Ghana where Kofi isn't. But I want to just go to a different country, a few other countries, and that means then I have to either establish a local presence with some local talent. So point being that you want to go from 5 million to 10 million, you have to take a bunch of actions, right? Now, who is going to take those actions? Of course, the existing team, right? Whoever is currently responsible for that. Like if there is a chief revenue officer whose goal it is to go from 5 million to 10 million, it is his job to identify what new territory to enter into, and then interview the right people, put them in motion. And then that's not sufficient. You need to work on other things like demand generation and other like internet marketing, conducting events, and many other things to get these people to produce, right? So that's basically the high level structure I want to establish before I go into my next set of the slides. But does this make sense? You're trying to go after some results. You take some actions to get those results, and those actions are eventually handled by people. Any questions so far?
I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think it's very clear. Keep going.
Great. Thank you, Angela. And as Angela mentioned, feel free to type your questions in chat, and Angela, you can stop me as I'm going through it, so we can answer those questions when we get them. So now going on, what is the holy grail of the planning process? In my mind, this basically is the high point of that. We need to understand causality. So I mentioned, for example, going from 5 million to 10 million in revenue means you enter a new territory, and then you have you appoint some people to kind of run the territory and so on. Obviously, that's one action, and I am saying that because of my prior experience. Now, if I mean, there are other ways to do it, right? Like, I mean, I already serve 250 customers in the South African market, and there's only like that's only like 1% of the market, and I can obviously just double down in that market itself. It could be a different set of actions. uh, if not, if that doesn't work, then maybe I have some new products which I can sell to the same customers, and so that's another set of actions, right? So the whole point is you have some numbers that you're trying to go after, which is what we call as the results on the y-axis here, and you're taking some actions to get those numbers, which we call as the actions here on the x-axis, right? Um, so just to simplify, we have them as low, high, and low, high on both axes. And what we mean by low, for example, on actions is that we either did not perform the actions that we already set out or planned well, or we we either did not perform well, or we did not perform to the quality level at which that we wanted to actually put in, right? And on the right side, high, when we say actions high, what we mean is that we gave it all. We planned well, we put the right amount of resources, and we executed everything according to our plan. That's the right side. High means. On the results, low means we didn't get the right results, right KPIs. Like we wanted to go from 5 to 10, but we got stuck at 6. And whereas like if you, let's say, blew through those numbers and you went to like 10 or 11 million, then you'll say that your results were high, right? With that, let's look at the 4 quadrants. The high quadrant, which is the top right quadrant, is great, right? So you did some good work, great. You performed some great actions, and you got some good numbers, and that's amazing, beautiful. On the lower left, you have the low, which is you didn't do the work, right? You said you had a great plan, but you didn't really execute the plan, and you also did not get the right results. So that's, while it's not ideal, it's understandable. You can say, yeah, I didn't do it, so I didn't get it, right? Like, simple. Now there are these two anomaly quadrants, right? So the top left one, which is where the actions are low and the results are high. That's what we call as the lottery quadrant. You didn't do the work, but you still got good results. Now, what does that mean? That just means that your the planned work that you kind of like that you created doesn't correlate well with the results. The results are coming even when you didn't do the work, maybe due to other reasons, maybe due to some external influence, maybe due to some other work that you did, or maybe due to some work that you did in the previous period. You're getting the benefit still. Like, you just have to go and introspect and see, yeah, it makes sense or not, right? The bottom right is another interesting quadrant where you put in all the effort and you did all the work correctly, but you didn't get the right results, and that's where 90% of the waste happens in organizations, right? You just keep going after things which are not giving you the right results, and this is where we need to understand causality. Is the title of the slide. Basically means that if you don't understand causality, you will end up wasting a lot of time. So let me give you an example. This is an OKR at not at a very high level, company level OKR. It's more of a team level OKR. Decreasing page loading time. So one of the website pages is taking a lot of time. We need to reduce the page loading time. Now, this is a package of KRs where one is a number, right? Like this one, decreasing page loading time from 10 seconds to half a second, or 10,000 milliseconds to 500 milliseconds is the what we call as the number, or the KPI, key result. And these other four are sort of like what we call as project or initiative or task type of key result. Now, we started this, and then about 3 weeks into the quarter, when we were reviewing the page, the OKR looks like this, and you can see here that we are making amazing progress on 1, 2, 3, and 5, but fourth is stuck, right? What would that mean? That could mean two things. One, these initiatives may actually have a step function impact, meaning when you go from 60 to 85, you still don't see any results. You'll have to hit 100 to see some impact, is one explanation. The other explanation is there is insufficient causality, right? There's no, the correlation is very weak. So what that would mean is you can complete all these projects, this number could still be stuck in the 10 seconds or maybe 9.3 seconds. It just came a little bit down, but it could still be stuck at a very high level. Now, this is what we are trying to avoid through proper OKR planning and executing. So how do you go about doing that? You just have to understand what are you doing, what is the current status quo in your company, right? Like, so there are all these functions. You have sales, marketing, customer success, finance, engineering, HR, maybe some other special functions in your companies, in your organizations. But they all these departments have some employees, and they are all working on something which we call as the set of actions. Now, everyone has the right mindset, right? Like, everyone wants their work to be counted. They all put in the right kind of effort. They all are in trust their managers and their all the way up to their CEOs to give them the right guidance and you know ask them to do the right work, right? So that's the pre that's kind of like the baseline with which we start. Now, these actions produce some results, as we saw earlier. You have actions like appointing, entering a new territory, appointing new sales leadership, and then it's producing some results, right? Now, the results, so actions produce some results, which is the causality ring on the right side, but the results also produce actions, right? Like, for example, you go from 5 to 10 million. you will be able to do new sets of actions. If you can do that, then you are stuck in the previous level. So in that sense, that causality basically is also circular, right? You actions to produce results, and then when the right results are achieved, they also result in better actions that you can plan and produce. So that's the whole point here. um, Now, one of the things that you can do from a planning standpoint is, go through these, three steps, right? So number one is to first know what do you know about your company, right? Like about your organization. So you might already know this Eisenhower matrix of, level of awareness and level of understanding. So you have this, known knowns and known unknowns and unknown knowns and unknown unknowns. All these, are available out. But basically, the point is we are trying to know as much as we can about our business, right? So we are trying to move from these top left, and bottom right quadrants to the top right quadrant as much as we can. If we can move our situations from these three quadrants to the known quadrants, once you know a lot more about your business, you'll be able to plan in a lot more certain way, right? Like obviously nothing is certain, but basically, because there's an external environment and other things that contribute to your business results, but essentially, knowing a lot more of them in a much more concrete way gives you a solid basis for planning for the future. Next is Okay. Yeah. Next is, time traveling back and reflecting, right? So, you're in like today is basically March 20, 7th now, or 8th, I guess. And you want to travel back into the previous quarter, and look at what I mean at the beginning of the previous quarter, and look at what you set out to achieve, and try to see what you got here, and I mean wherever you are, like what you have accomplished, and see what are the differences. What did you plan? What did you get? And understand the reasons for the either overachievement or underachievement, or at par whatever you got, right? Now, third is putting somebody else's shoes, putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Now, this is an example from the father of OKRs, Andy Grove, who is, I'm sure you all know, is the father of OKRs. I mean, he invented OKRs rather. In the mid 1980s, Intel was facing a lot of competition, especially from Japanese companies, and memories were becoming like next to nothing price wise. Um, and so Andy Grove asks Gordon, Moore, who was his chief operating officer, and he was facing a lot of pressure. Andy Grove was facing a lot of pressure from the board. So he was asking, Moore, hey, if we get kicked out, which was very likely at the time, and the board brought in a new CEO, what do you think, he or she would do? Uh, and he, without Moore was like, without flinching his eyes, he said, he'll get us out of memories. So then, Andy Grove said, okay, let us walk out of his office and come back in as the new CEO and COO, and let's just do that. Now, this is a very interesting and easy thing to say, but it's obviously very difficult to, accomplish in real world. Many times we are tied to, our past and history, and we tend to rest on it. That it's very difficult for us to just, simply, change, throw away whatever our original ideas were, and then come up with something new, uh, and implement it ourselves. So it's difficult, but obviously it's very effective. Now, when it comes to planning for the next period, right? Again, you have the same departments and you had actions. Now we are calling them as A1 for period one, and we got some results R1. Now we did this whatever I was talking about earlier in terms of those reflection exercises, and we understood that the causality is somewhat understood, let's say. Now, in your next period, what you would do is you'll create new targets. Like, if you look at results R1, which could be like 5 million, and results R2 would be 10 million, right? So I want to get to 10 million. Now, if you have understood your actions to results A1 to R1 relationship well, then your new sets of actions for period two, which we will call as A2, will be clear. That will go from, okay, so I did some work and I got 5 million. Now I'm doing some. I need to get to 10 million. So that means that I need to get a bunch of existing actions going where I have understood the causality clearly. And in some other case, I'm just going to, come up with some new hypothesis and say that these are my new additional OKRs to accomplish in the next period. Um, that's essentially how you go through your planning process. Now, when you come up with a bunch of actions, right? Like you have in terms of A2, you have a bunch of, you brainstorm with your team. We typically recommend and we typically do a quarterly offsite for 2 days. In fact, Profit.pro team will be off next week for a couple of days doing this exercise. Um, and we then say, okay, fine, we got some results, we had a plan, and now we are going to go through and create a new plan. And for the new plan, there are a bunch of target actions. Now, let's put them in these kinds of four buckets, right? Like in terms of effort versus impact, which has low effort and low impact, we call that as continuous improvement. Which has high and high, like high effort and high impact, we call as breakthrough, and we put our high powered stars in those kind of projects. And where the effort is high and impact is low, we dump them, we don't even do them. And where the effort is low and the impact is high, we call them again as a lottery, quadrant, grab them and get them done quickly, right? So that's kind of what I thought I wanted to share. Um, and in terms of like from OKR terminologies, if you look at these current OKRs that you have, there are four ways in which you can again set your targets. One is as you can see here, you modify. I mean, you completed a KR, right? Like again, I'm going little slightly out of syllabus here, but basically, you completed a KR, but you want to still continue with it, and this is like after you have your actions, right? And what you would do with your existing actions. You have some new actions, but the existing actions you can either modify and continue where you accomplish the results, but you want to still persist with them or continue with them. So you just modify the new targets and continue. Um, if you've not completed but you still want to continue, you extend it as is. I'm sure you have some of those. You've not completed but you don't want to continue, you move it to a backlog. And if you want to complete and if you're done, you don't want to continue with it, you accomplished your desired results, you call it complete and close and move on, right? So these are the four ways in which you can close out the existing actions. One way to validate your plan. So you have a plan. Uh, you can just time travel forward. If you remember during the planning side, reflection side, I said, reflection time, I said, you can go time traveling backwards. But time traveling forward, like, if one way to validate it, I mean, there's no sure way to validate. Obviously, future is uncertain. But if you time travel to, a quarter later and try to look at it and say, okay, will I be happy with these results? Number one, and what kind of, probability do I associate with these actions to be either executed well or executed precisely to the, 100% probability? And do I have the right people? So, these are important things for you to validate as a senior management leader.